do with why the black men specifically are being targeted so heavy. So my fear is that not only will the black men, of course, they're going to begin to get targeted more, which is unfortunate that we have to say that in this day and time, but that's just the reality of where we live. But also, we have to begin to wonder about the black women, the black children. We have to begin to wonder about the black community as a whole, because sooner or later, it's going to trickle down from the black man. He's the head. Everything flows from the head on down. And so now we as black men have to wonder, okay, who's in danger next in the black community?
I know you have siblings. I have a little brother. Like, even though you have sisters, do you feel like this affects them as well?
Yeah, I definitely do. I feel like no one can say, oh, it's just the black man or it's just the little black boys. It affects everyone. If your black men are being affected, then you're affected. The women are affected. The children are affected. And it's not just because the little girls and the little boys or the black women aren't being put in handcuffs and being murdered like the men are, doesn't mean they aren't affected in other ways. They're emotionally affected. Just how can you as a little girl imagine growing up without your father because he was killed by a racist white cop? I mean, that's just something that I wouldn't be able to fathom as a little girl, but even as a little child, period. How can my son grow up knowing his dad isn't around because he was killed due to systemic racism at the end of the day? So it just because black men are the ones who are pretty much at the face of this whole systemic racism, this whole police brutality issue, there are still other factors that we have to take into account that affect black women, black children. It's a sad reality of what we're living in now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, so when you're around a police officer, do you fear for your life, or do you feel like, oh, it's just a cop, or is it different versus you being pulled over, or you just seeing one? Like, what emotions go through when you see a police officer?
Honestly, that's a great question because I feel as though most people would have some sort of reaction. You know, us being human, we're going to react to something, especially something as sensitive of a topic as police brutality and how it affects the black community. Me personally, however, I feel as though even when I see police officers, I still see the good in some because every police officer who wears a badge isn't out to kill me because I'm a black man. And that's
Right.
what a lot of young men, a lot of black people, period, need to realize is that every badge does not mean a murderer. Every badge does not mean a racist. Every badge does not mean a bigot. You have to
Come on.
realize that a lot of these police officers still do the job that they signed up for, which was to
Mm.
be a civil servant to this community. And so I feel like one of the issues that we as black people need to start to address in our own community is the fact that when we conduct ourselves in a certain manner around polices or policemen or policewomen, that there will be some consequences. And no, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we're the reason that we're being murdered. That's not what I'm saying at all, because I totally disagree with that statement. But what I'm saying is when we jump the gun and we're so quick to react when there isn't even anything to react over, that's where the issue starts to become ours and not so much theirs. So no, I don't I'm not filled with rage every time I see a police officer because there are still good ones out there. I see them all the time, and I speak to them all the time. They speak back. It's not a police against black people thing. It's a racist against black people thing. It's bigotry against black people. It's this agenda where those who coincidentally have a badge are also racist. We have to
Mm.
stop associating racism with policemen because that's not the issue. The issue comes in when there are those who exercise and portray their racism who also have a badge. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. So today I saw a police officers arrest the cast of CNN news reporters.
Yes, I saw that.
How how are you feel? How do you feel about all the looting, setting the police police stations on fire, setting the target on fire, all that. Do you feel like it was because the peaceful protest wasn't working, because they wanted justice, or like how? What do you think led up to the looting?
So the looting, yeah, like you said, it was basically because we've been talking about Black Lives Matter. We've tried to do the kneeling. Colin Kaepernick tried to do it in a way that was symbolic, but also tried to keep the peace. And look where that got him. He's still jumping through these different hoops because of a simple act that was meant not to be uh, devious or maleficent or anything like that. It was meant to be a symbol of what we believe in and what we stand for as the Black community. And so the CNN thing was actually interesting to me. I actually heard about that this morning on the way into work. And so my thing was it just a ploy for you to try to hush the media? In this situation, yes, the media gets branded for being negative and all these things, but in this situation, they were actually trying to shed some light on something that
Mm-hmm.
needed to be addressed to the nation. And so, you as a police officer, what my thing is, what was your motivation to try to silence the media? Because at the end of the day, they still have their freedom of expression. So at this point, you're really starting to tread on dangerous territory when it comes down to trying to silence the mouth of the media, because they're really, even though they're getting paid for their job, they're really just exercising their First Amendment at the end of the day. And so it's really funny that they were arrested because they were trying to shed some light on something that needed to be seen by the community and by the nation. Um, and to go a step further, as you were saying about um, the looting, I disagree with the looting, and specifically the looting, because my question to those who are participating in it is, what is stealing and vandalizing an innocent store have to do with getting your point across about Black Lives Matter? Yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, I don't feel the peaceful protests have helped. I don't feel the marketing and the branding of Black Lives Matter in a peaceful way has helped. So yes, I do agree that there should be more uh, stern acts, more aggressive ways to get our message across. But looting specifically, for me, I don't feel like that's the way to go. Protests definitely are a way to go. Um, I don't know if you saw, but they lit the precinct on fire. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad that that's the radical movement that we're being forced to do, but it's also effective, because now more than ever, I have been seeing on social media so many different white allies, which we have been needing from the jump. I was having a discussion with one of my best friends on last evening, saying we can't do this without white allies, because at the end of the day, we are still a minority community. We're going to need the resources, and we're going to need the endorsements of our white allies who believe the same thing we believe in. And that's just it. Some people will disagree and say that maybe we just need the Black community to rise up and speak out. But even if every single Black person in this nation were to rise up and stand up and speak out, it wouldn't be enough. And that's the
Yeah, they
sad
still
thing.
outnumber us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the sad thing. And so we need, now that we're becoming more radical, and even though I don't agree with the looting, but now that they're seeing the looting, and now that they're seeing the fires and all the marches and the more aggressive stance that we're taking, now they're choosing to open up their mouth and say, yes, I agree that this is wrong. I agree police brutality has gone too far. I believe that bigotry is still something that exists in this society.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, we have to take more aggressive measures. I totally agree with that. Looting is just not one of them, in my opinion.
So I also saw that the police officer was charged today. Do you think that was a response into the looting, or do you think that they charged him because they actually want justice?
I is that I'm gonna be very frank with what I believe. I believe they're doing it because their hands are tied. Because with
Mhm.
all the evidence that's coming out, that video, I think someone said that video was like 9 minutes long. Whoever had the original video, it was like 9 minutes long. So you see the raw evidence, you see the raw happenings of what's going on and the effects and the consequences of this police brutality. And so it would be crazy to think that they wouldn't charge him at all,
Mhm.
because what they're smart. They're very smart and very strategic in what they're doing. Yes, they charged him, but they only charged him with third degree murder. And so it's almost like they're trying to just get by. They're trying to just do what they can, or what they need to do just to keep the public eye off of them. But the sad reality is now it's on you more than ever. So
Mhm.
yes, you charge them with third degree murder, but I feel like that's only a start. I don't believe third degree murder is speaks volume to what actually happened. This man was murdered for the color of his skin. At the end of the day, you can't tell me anything else. He wasn't being combative at the point where his circulation was cut off from the rest of his body, because the way his knee was planted on that man's neck, it had to constrict an airway. It had to constrict blood flow to vital organs. So you can't tell me that it was just a count of third degree murder. I refuse to believe that. But what I do believe is that they're only doing it because the heat is on. And
Yeah.
now that they're in the kitchen and now we done turned the stove up, now you
Mhm.
feel like you have to do something, but you're having to do something still isn't enough. And it's
Still the
still
bare
not
minimum.
justice for this innocent man who left behind daughters and a fiance and family members. It still isn't justice. I refuse to believe that third degree murder is the only thing you can come up with. I refuse to believe that.
Yeah, we're gonna see how this goes. I think they're, going to probably try to fight it. Hopefully, if they do fight it, then he gets something sentenced harder. But I just want to say thank you for your passion. Thank you for your honest answers. This was amazing.
Yes,
Is
thank you so
there
much. You got to invite
is
me
there
back to more. I really enjoyed this. And the funny thing is, I don't even like to talk about this whole situation just because it gets me so riled up. And honestly, a part of me wants to believe that it's still not happening. A part of me wants to believe that Martin Luther King was effective, and he was effective. Not to get me wrong at all, he was
Mhm.
effective in what he stood for, and what he fought for, and what him and many other civil rights activists fought for. But at the same time, we're now taking a turn back to where we came from. History is repeating itself, and that's so sad. And I'm numb to the fact that this is really happening at a time where we should be able to do we shouldn't have to fear for our lives. I'll put it like that. We shouldn't, as black men and as black women and black children, we shouldn't have to do different things and modify different factors of our existence to ensure that we're not putting ourselves in harm's way. Because at that point, are we living, and are we really maximizing our potential as black people, because we're constantly wondering whose shadow or whose feet we're stepping on, and who's going to come and try to silence us next? It's crazy to me.
It really is. It's like every month of this year, I've been saying this is really crazy.
It is.
Like
It's,
this is
it's
really crazy. Every single month,
I can't
I'm
even
like,
fathom it.
this is crazy.
Like the fact that we have to even have this conversation about an innocent man who laid there and cried for help. It's 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 crazy. It's heart wrenching, is what it is.
It really does send chills down my spine,
Yeah.
especially knowing that he was crying out for his deceased mother.
Yes. Yes.
That that tore me up.
Yes. What tears me up even more is the fact that I hear so many people, so many of his family members who have said so many positive things about this man, and it's like he was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person who had the wrong motive.
Right?
So many
Who
wrong
had the
things.
wrong amount of power?
It's so many wrong things. And now he has 6-year-old daughters, I believe, that have to be introduced to why their father was taken away from them. And they have to grow up remembering that yes, their father was the tipping point for something that will eventually change the systemic racism in this country. But at the end of the day, they still lost a father. They're not going
Right.
to see that he was a pivotal point in this Black Lives Matter movement. They're not going to see the fact that yes, their father was able to help, but at what sacrifice? It's the sacrifice that's going to hurt them more than anything. I'm sure that at this point, of course, they can't fathom it now, but 10 years from now, they're not going to care about the Black Lives Matter. They're